What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my review of Fear Street, Prom Queen, the 2025 installment in the ever-growing Fear Street franchise. So let's just get right to it. This movie is fine. Just fine. Not a disaster, not a revelation. Just aggressively, stubbornly average. It's the kind of slasher which plays like a checklist where every box is ticked, which is somehow both efficient and lifeless. High school drama, blood, a masked killer, a twist which thinks it's smarter than it is, and just enough teen angst to fill a CW pilot. It's so committed to the formula that it feels like it was made by an algorithm trained on slasher films from the last 40 years. That doesn't mean it's unwatchable. Not at all. There are definitely moments that entertain, but it also never once tries to rise above the bare minimum. It's a movie that wants to be safe and familiar more than it wants to be memorable or bold. You watch it, you mildly enjoy it, and then 2 days later, you've forgotten 90% of what happened. And honestly, that's kind of the perfect way to describe Prom Queen, disposable horror comfort food. And that wouldn't be such a bad thing if the movie had some sort of spark or unique angle. But Prom Queen often feels like it's running on autopilot. You've seen this movie before, just with different characters and maybe a better budget. If you've seen even a handful of slashers like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Valentine, any random episode of a horror anthology show, you already know every beat this movie is going to hit. There's no real suspense, no real mystery, no real identity. It borrows from better films but forgets to bring its own voice to the table. It's horror karaoke. You get the lyrics and the tune, but the soul isn't really there. And yet, oddly enough, this movie kind of made me more curious about the franchise as a whole. I haven't watched the earlier Fear Street entries 1994, 1978, or 1666, but now I'm genuinely wondering if those are more creative or if this one is just the outlier. So hey, if you've seen those, leave a comment and let me know. Are they actually inventive? Or is this franchise just content playing it safe? Now, the plot itself isn't anything groundbreaking, but it has a decent setup. We follow Lori Granger, a student at the ever-cursed Shadyside High, as she campaigns for Prom Queen. It starts off with the usual teen drama like crushes, rivalries, snarky comments in the hallway, but things quickly spiral into horror territory when the other Prom Queen nominees start getting picked off one by one. Classic slasher stuff. As prom night inches closer, Lori is forced to juggle her social status, mounting paranoia, some personal baggage involving her family, and a killer who may or may not have ties to the school's dark past. On paper, it's a solid enough premise. But Prom Queen never really capitalizes on its concept. It stays stuck in the shallow end, refusing to dive deeper into its characters or its mythology. There's potential here for something juicy, but the movie just coasts along without ever tapping into it. That being said, it's not a total loss. There are a few things I actually liked that kept me from zoning out completely. First off, the prom aesthetic is a blast. The movie leans hard into the sparkly, over-the-top, neon-drenched vibe of prom night, and honestly, it works. The lighting is colorful, the production design has flair, and there's a nice visual energy to a lot of the prom scenes. It doesn't do much to elevate the story, but it gives the movie some much-needed style. The pacing also helps. This isn't a film that drags. Even when the story isn't grabbing you, it moves quickly enough that you're never bored. And then there's Lizzie's best friend, who is easily the best part of the entire movie. She's got this horror geek edge to her, complete with snarky one-liners, an encyclopedic knowledge of slasher tropes, and a sarcastic attitude that gives the movie a jolt of personality whenever she's on screen. If this had been her movie, I think we'd be having a very different conversation. There's also a level of self-awareness baked into the script that works at times. The movie knows it's filled with clichés, and to its credit, it doesn't try to disguise that. We've got the classic high school archetypes like the mean girl, the jock, the shy loner, the outcast best friend, and the movie has fun playing with those tropes. But it never really subverts them in any interesting way. It's more like the movie is saying, hey look, we know this is all super tropey, and then proceeds to do exactly what you expect anyway. Still, that self-aware tone does give it a sort of campy charm. If you're in the right mood, something light, silly, and a little bloody, it can be a decent ride. But let's be honest, the negatives weigh this movie down hard. For starters, the kills are some of the most uninspired I've seen in a while. Every death is basically a copy-paste job. The killer pops out of nowhere, a weapon swings, someone screams, and we cut away. There's no creativity, no tension, no sense of build-up. Just cheap jump scares and even cheaper effects. And speaking of effects, the CGI in this movie is rough. Like early 2000s TV movie rough. The blood looks rubbery, wounds look fake, and some scenes are lit in a way that makes everything look like it was rendered on a potato. There's a moment involving a severed head that's so laughably bad, it pulled me right out of the scene. Then there's the 1980s aesthetic, which the movie leans on hard, but without earning it. It's clearly trying to capitalize on the Stranger Things effect, but there's no real commitment to the setting beyond a few costumes and background songs. It's all surface level. The characters talk and act like modern teens, the setting feels generic, and the soundtrack is nothing but the same tired needle drops we've heard 100 times before. If you're going to do 80s, do the 80s, don't just slap on a synth track and hope nobody notices. And the story just falls apart fast. The big twist reveal about the killer being tied to the mean girl's family is telegraphed so early that when it finally happens, you're just sitting there like, called it. There's no shock, no clever setup, no dramatic payoff. It's like the movie thought it was dropping a bombshell, but the audience already saw the fuse being lit an hour ago. Laurie's emotional arc also feels incredibly half-baked. There's a subplot involving her mom and a tragic prom incident from the past that gets maybe 5 minutes of screen time, and we're supposed to believe this is the emotional anchor of the film. It's not. It's underwritten, underdeveloped, and ultimately feels like filler. And then we have the killers themselves, or should I say, the walking embodiment of generic slasher design. Black robe, blank white mask, and zero personality. There's nothing iconic or even particularly scary about them. No signature weapon, no memorable lines, no unique method of killing. They feel like they were created by a random costume generator, and the way the characters react to the horror unfolding around them is just absolutely baffling. Someone finds a mutilated body and just goes, "What the heck?" With all the emotional investment of someone reacting to a spilled soda. There's no fear, no panic, no realism. It's like the characters don't know they're in a horror movie, or worse, they just don't care. So overall, Fear Street, Prom Queen is a disappointment, but not a disaster. It's passable popcorn horror, something you throw on when you're in the mood for a few cheap thrills, some colorful visuals, and a story you don't have to think too hard about. But for anyone looking for a good slasher or a creative entry in the Fear Street saga, this one just doesn't cut it. It plays things way too safe, relies too heavily on clichés, and lacks the imagination to leave a lasting impression. There are some fun bits here and there, especially visually and thanks to a standout supporting character, but they're not enough to save the whole film. This isn't horror at its worst, but it's definitely horror at its most forgettable. So I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. So, what do you guys think of this movie? Do you love it, think it's just okay, or maybe even dislike it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. I really appreciate your support. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.